Good evening, family. As most of you here remember, years and years ago, when we started this Christmas tradition, I would read a story about Christmas. Well, tonight, I would like to share with everyone my story about my walk with our Savior, whose son's birthday we celebrate tomorrow on Christmas Day. I recently was reminded that all stories should start with a title. And the title of this one is The Power of Prayer. October 6th is a very important date in my life. Several years ago, my first child was born on October 6th. Christina, you probably remember that on this day I missed several birthdays, sometimes due to work, but often due to the famous fall fishing trip. Well, October 6th, 2022 was not unlike a lot of these. Christina and her family were out visiting a Dancing with the Stars production. So, with the family all not being available, someone had to watch our great granddaughter, Gabriella. And that was me and Grandma, better known as Gigi. The evening began with Gigi giving Gabby a bath. We were at Christina and Jay's house. I heard Grandma yell for me, "Come upstairs and get Gabriella to dry her off." I did, and halfway down the stairs, carrying Gabby, I felt a strange sensation in my right arm. I only knew to tell myself, if you need to get down the stairs and get seated before you fall. I remember thinking, well, if I could just sit in this recliner for a few minutes, I'm sure this sensation will pass. Gabby popped off my lap and went to sit on the couch because she heard Gigi coming downstairs. Gigi told Gabriella to climb up in Papa's lap and ask him to put her monster slippers on, which she did, but I wasn't able to respond to her when I heard her say, "Gigi, Papa's got water running out of his mouth." Mind you, Gabby was 1 month short of her third birthday. I can only look back and think this is the moment that Gabby was touched by an angel. I can't imagine a baby that young being alert enough on her own to tell Gigi about what was going on. I believe the Lord sent an angel in that moment to whisper in Gabby's ear what to tell Gigi. I wasn't able to move or talk, but I could hear Gigi talking on the phone to the 911 operator, telling them to come quick. My husband's having a stroke. In what seemed like only minutes, the EMS was at the house, loading me up and taking me to Angola Hospital, where I stayed just briefly before they transferred me on to Parkview North for additional treatment. After I got settled in the hospital bed, I could hear the doctors talking to Linda about the procedure they wanted to do. They asked her if we had made arrangements. in case things did not go well. The procedure they were explaining required running a long wire up the artery in my groin into my brain and try and pull out two major blood clots that were causing my stroke. I don't remember much except for Linda telling them, try to do whatever you need to save him. Well, after the procedure, I could hear the doctors telling her all went fairly well. They were able to pull two blood clots that were causing most of the damage. But there were smaller clots that had crystallized. They were afraid to attempt to remove them, that they might possibly damage some other blood vessels in my brain. The main concern was an active bleed. They were not able to stop it, and this would have to stop if I was to have any chance of a normal life going forward. I remember thinking, well, just go to sleep and see if you wake up in the morning. We'll deal with it then. Well, I woke up that morning to Linda and Chrissy in the room. I could see them. I could move. I could speak. I'm not sure whether it was Linda or Christine, that posted some information on Facebook asking for prayers for me. Christina did tell me that her minister, Michael, was coming by that morning to see me. Michael came in and sat down in the chair next to my bed and asked if he could pray for me. I was feeling very stressed and worried about my life and how it's going to be, so I said yes, please. As Michael took my hand in his and began the prayer, I felt a weight lifted off my body and the stress melt away. It was an amazing feeling. Soon the nurses came in and got me to go down for some more tests. I believe an MRI or a CAT scan. Later that afternoon, the doctors came back with the nursing staff. They had a reassuring look on their face and said, we have some amazing news. We just got the results back from the MRI. Not only has the brain bleed stopped, but all that blood that gathered has dissipated and is gone. They went on to say the prognosis looked very favorable. I rested well that night. Linda and Christina's surprise when they popped into my room the next morning early to see how I was. I was sitting up in bed talking and had been up with some help to go to the restroom, and I was starting to regain my strength. I believe I was in the hospital for 7 or 8 days following that, when I finally was released to go home in Linda's care. And between Linda taking care of me and Christina adopted me as one of her third-grade students to help me relearn my cognitive skills that I lost due to the stroke. Within a few weeks or months, things started feeling like normal might be a possibility again. Christina's minister, Michael, stopped by the house for a visit, and we had a long talk. I told him that I had decided I wanted to turn my life over to God and put Him in charge. Yes, I wanted Jesus to take the wheel. It wasn't long after that I found myself on the computer searching for a house to buy in Florida at Continental Country Club. I'd somehow gotten the idea in my head, if I could buy a house with 3 bedrooms and a garage, we could park the car and fly back and forth to Florida. And I could still enjoy our winters there. I was surprised Linda kind of liked that idea. It wasn't long before we found a house that we were both interested in. So Linda suggested that I contact the realtor that helped us sell our house that we used to own in Continental to see if she might have something for us for sale. So sometime around Christmas, I contacted her and she said, well, exactly what are you looking for? And I told her we needed 3 bedrooms and a 2-car garage. We wanted something with a nice view, and of course, I'd like to be on the golf course. She said, well, what's your price range? I told her. Sharon said, well, let me make a couple phone calls. I might have something that would work for you. The next day, she called back and said, well, I contacted a couple that had been thinking of selling back in September, but decided they didn't want to go through the emotional stress of selling a property, as they owned other property in Indiana and also Michigan, but would be willing to give me a listing if the buyers could meet certain conditions. Mainly, if the sale was to go through, that we would keep it quiet so they wouldn't be bothered by their friends and neighbors that also lived in the community about the sale of their home. She sent us some pictures, and Linda liked the house. The view was amazing. So we decided to make the purchase, trusting in that God has put us on this path. We'd continue to go through with it. I remembered as the closing date began to come up on us, the stress of this decision had been weighing on me. I talked to Linda about, had we rushed into this? Are we making the right decision? We kept saying, well, God wouldn't have put this in front of us if He didn't want us to take advantage of it. The next Sunday at church, we always have prayer time before communion. So I went to God in prayer and told Him about the decision was really weighing on me. And I didn't know if we were making the right choice. Even though we had prayed for this, then suddenly this thought came into my head just as clear as a bell. And that was the words, "This may not be the answer to your prayer." I told Linda about the thought that had come in my head. The next day I received an email from Realtor Sharon. She said, "I have some news to share with you about the couple you're buying your house from. His wife is in the hospital with heart issues. Not sure what the situation is, but I will keep you posted. I just wanted you to know." The words kept sticking in my head. Maybe it's not the answer to your prayer. Within a few days, Mrs. Burke was released from the hospital and returned home, so I asked the realtor to contact them and tell them if the situation regarding the sale had changed, we would understand and would not go through with it if that was their wish. We were assured that yes, they wanted to go through with the sale. The need to get back to Michigan to be with their children was stronger than ever. We found out that after the closing and talking more with them, that Mrs. Burke was suffering from a serious heart disease, and that her husband was starting to show signs of early onset dementia. The words, "Maybe it's not the answer to your prayer," to this day still ring in my ears. We have been so very happy at our winter home at Continental Country Club, and it worked out very well for all of us. I'd like to share one more recall with you all to remember about the power of prayer. This happened to me recently, again, while I was at church. We always sing songs before church service, which I try to partake in. However, my singing voice is not very good. I remember hearing a gentleman behind me and a lady in front of me with such beautiful voices. I was kind of feeling sorry for myself, thinking that if I could sing, how happy I would be. Well, soon it was once again time for communion. And before communion, we stopped for prayer. I began praying to God, feeling a little depressed about my singing voice. And all of a sudden, feeling came over me, and I heard these words in my mind. "Ron, you will sing, for when you come and join me in heaven, you will sing like a nightingale every day." Well, my heart just filled up, and I thought, yes, that's my reward in heaven. So, kids, when I'm gone someday, when you think back of me, just remember, I'm singing like a nightingale in heaven. Merry Christmas to you all. I love you so very much. The power of prayer. Good night.